There wasn't a lot DJ Durkin could say that could really, I don't know, excite me, but he did it. And it was about Keldric Faulk and his injury update.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or your second listen every single day, maybe your third after the Auburn basketball game tonight. Zac Blackerby here with you, and DJ Durkin just got done speaking to the media at, maybe his last weekly presser. We'll see. Obviously, a lot about the Iron Bowl, and we'll get to that as far as how they're prepping and what they think of Ty Simpson and Alabama and what they do on the across the state. But to me, my biggest question, and I actually didn't really expect him to answer it, if I'm being honest with you, just because that's how DJ Durkin is at the podium, and I mean that in a good way. It's different than Hugh Freeze, and it's a lot of the stuff is closer to the vest. He shut down practice this week to everyone. Nobody's getting in. They are locked in. They're locked and loaded. But obviously asked about, hey, some guys got banged up. And then he was even asked a follow-up question specifically about Keldric Faulk. But he said no concerns about the injuries. And then in a follow-up question about Keldric specifically, he said Keldric will be ready to go. It was what we all had hoped the situation would be. And that was that in that situation, it didn't make a ton of sense to play Keldric, given the opponent, given the lead that they had. So that's really the main thing I wanted, and I kind of expected him to kind of keep that information close to the vest as hey, we'll see what happens. And no, I'm glad he answered that question. The other question you knew was coming was about Deuce Knight, and rightfully so. Deuce Knight was incredible against Mercer. How does that impact the Iron Bowl? And I didn't recognize the voice that asked the question, but said, hey, obviously Deuce was great. Are there any, questions, chances that he starts at quarterback or plays at quarterback in a package? And DJ kind of laughs like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me go take it up to my coaches, and we'll talk about it in the offensive meetings. But talked about like, hey, people got to see what we get to see from Deuce in practice, which is obviously exciting, which is, kind of some of the murmurs that have leaked out of practice since he's been here about how special he can be. And that's great. Talked about his comfort, Deuce Knight's comfort. As far as, he didn't ever seem nervous, or the moment didn't look too big for him. And he kind of credited how he just kind of did the reads and executed the way he was supposed to, like he was coached, and went through the progressions and people responded to him, and he was a leader. I mean, it's everything that you want to hear about, your future face of the program making his first start against a team that he should have done all that stuff at, and he had a historic performance. That's awesome. Yeah, but it's Mercer. Yeah, whatever. That really wasn't the question. It was, how did Deuce Knight handle himself? And Deuce Knight has handled himself great. And as far as, answering the question that was asked, like, will we see Deuce Knight at quarterback on Saturday? He didn't answer it. To my understanding, and, Warrigal Plus was dipping in and out. It's probably my internet. It probably wasn't Warrigal Plus, but I don't think he answered that question. Is that by design? Possibly. Do you want Alabama to spend a few minutes thinking, okay, well, what if Deuce Knight comes in? I can't imagine you would change what you do defensively that much if Deuce Knight came in and subbed out Ashton Daniels. But it's fun to think about. My gut reaction is it doesn't happen, because Ashton Daniels, like, the way you're going to defend him anyway, you're going to respect the run, you're going to respect the pass. I think you're going to do the same thing if Deuce was in there. So I don't fully understand why you would do that, but we've seen people do it, and we've seen, some teams find success with that. We haven't really seen that be successful at Auburn. So we'll see. He was asked an interesting question. I think Jason Caldwell asked it about coaching a team this week that doesn't have any classes. And so he really leaned in and challenged them like, hey, be here more. Hey, make sure, everybody's, taken care of, injuries in the training room and all of that, which is great. And it sounds like people have kind of answered that call, which is something that you want to hear, which is good. And then he was asked about Ty Simpson in Alabama, and obviously it was nothing but high praise for what Ty Simpson has done in Alabama this year as far as prepping for him this week. Talked about how he always knows exactly where to go with the football. You can tell that he's looking in the right places. Of course, DJ looking at it from a defensive point of view. They like to push the ball down the field. That's the same thing they talked about with Mercer, and boy, did they try to do that, and they had success with it early. And then he also talked about what they do formationally, doing a lot of different looks. And I highlight that because one that's kind of obvious, but I highlight that because that was kind of the thing that he pointed out that Vandy did differently in the second half that we didn't adjust to. So take that for what it's worth. He said that prepping for Alabama's offense is going to be their toughest challenge of the year so far. And then the next question, or maybe a few questions later, he was asked about, hey, Alabama hasn't been super great or successful when it comes to running the football this year. And he's like, yeah, but like, I'm going to assume, it doesn't always show up in the stat sheet, but a lot of these quick passes of getting things to their playmakers, that to me is kind of, the extension of the run game is what DJ Durkin was talking about. So what does Auburn do to limit that? What does Auburn do to slow that down? To me, I think is going to be a big part of this. As far as anything else, I don't think anything else really stood out a ton. The Iron Bowl, like, it was interesting. He had to, I don't know if he had to, but he said he did this morning, like, educate the team about the Iron Bowl, because it's not like the old days where you have guys that have been at Auburn for 3 or 4 years with all these new guys coming in through the transfer portal. Thought that was kind of interesting. So take that for what it's worth. And then Sylvester Smith will miss the first half because of the targeting. And he talked about, like, yeah, I mean, I'm having to manage practice, but like, we do that anyway, the reps in practice, because we get a lot of guys in. A lot of folks asking about Keldric. That was the first thing we talked about, but Keldric is going to be good to go. The only reason he was held out at time or after he was pulled last week was because of the situation. So said Keldric would be ready to go, and they're not concerned on the injury front. So that'll be good. That'll be good. All right, answering your questions as well as other thoughts about this week and DJ Durkin and the Iron Bowl next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book right now. New customers at FanDuel, if your first $5 bet hits, you get $300 in bonus bets to use throughout the app. Auburn, a 5.5-point dog. Can Auburn keep it within a touchdown? I think so. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers, once again, $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. It's the best place to buy tickets for anything. It's the best place to buy tickets for the Iron Bowl. You can pull up Game Time in just a couple of taps. You're going to see the best deals you can. Look, it's going to be a nice ticket for sure. It's a place where a lot of people want to be Jordan Hare at night in the Iron Bowl. But the best place to get tickets for this is Game Time. And you can use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for your first purchase. Save $20 there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Once again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's super interesting. It's super interesting, the shift in belief when it comes to the belief in Auburn's offense, and now people being cautious about Auburn's defense. DJ was asked a question towards the end where, I mean, you can tell if DJ likes a question or not. I don't think he really tries to hide it. But he was asked, like, hey, what's your message to your defensive backs? Has kind of been up and down, I believe is what the question was worded. It's been up and down this season. And he's like, well, it doesn't really change from week to week. Like we're prepping and we want to get guys in situations. As I just have a hard time seeing Auburn's defense not be prepared in an Iron Bowl. I just have a hard time getting to that point. And like there's very few people out there that believe DJ Durkin will be elsewhere next year. Now, whether you think he's going to be the head coach or the defensive coordinator, which most people are assuming he will still be in the same position next year as he is now as defensive coordinator, like he knows what this means. He knows what this game means. He's laying the foundation. One, he wants to win. He's been entrusted with this opportunity, and all these players believe in him. This game means a lot to him. But it also means a lot for keeping momentum going into the offseason. And this is a staff that we all assume he will still be on next year. He knows what's at stake. And like some of this is most of this is some of this is speculation. But like I'd be surprised if DJ Durkin was not aware of, whatever the plan is that John Cohen is kind of forecasting to the future. If there are plans and if folks have been reached out to, and if there is a true leader internally, my guess is DJ Durkin is aware of it. That's just my guess. And my guess is DJ Durkin has a pretty good feeling that the most likely scenario is he is defensive coordinator next year. It's just my guess. Just my guess. And that's what everybody I'm talking to is saying, kind of the same thing. And so if that's the case, like this means a ton to him. Like you can make the argument, like I'd be surprised if Derek Nix was on staff next year as offensive coordinator. So like, what does this mean for him? Like, sure, he believes in these kids and he recruited a lot of these guys onto the roster and he's with them every single day. And obviously what a great opportunity it is for him. Because man, what if he goes out and they put up a bunch of points against Alabama? How he's going to be viewed in the coordinator carousel over the next few weeks is going to be fascinating. It's going to be super, super interesting because I think he's going to have the opportunity to get a pretty solid job where he'll be able to call plays full time, which is what he deserves based on what we've seen in the small sample size so far. But I do think he's probably going to approach it in a different way than DJ Durkin is. So I have a hard time seeing Auburn not be ready on the defensive side of the football. That's just kind of my approach on it. Am I booging? Is it wishful thinking? I don't know. We'll learn on Saturday. But I think this Auburn defense is going to be ready and prepared. You got to assume they use the bye week to prep for Alabama. Curious to see what the percentage was last week as far as how much they spent on Alabama and how much they spent on Mercer. We'll see. But I believe that Auburn's defense is going to be ready, and I think Auburn's offense is going to be able to score points. So very fun. Very fun. Okay. Any questions? Any questions in that we can tackle just for Silas asked, do you think Deuce will play in the Iron Bowl? I think he will in certain situations like short yardage. Yeah, Silas, I don't know when you hopped in, but one of the questions that Durkin was asked was Auburnator asked the same thing. Do you think we could see Deuce in some red zone packages versus Bama? So he was asked this question. It was one of the first questions that DJ Durkin was asked. And the question was, do you think we'll see Deuce at quarterback or any packages? And Durkin kind of laughed. Was like, yeah, let me take that to my offensive staff. That's a good idea. And then he talked about how great Deuce was this past weekend. He didn't really answer the question. So I think you could take that either way. I don't fully get it unless you just kind of want to go out of your way to get Deuce involved. But I don't know if, like, from a competitive advantage standpoint on Saturday, like when you put in a package quarterback or a different quarterback, like you want him to be different than what your starter has. And I don't know if their skill set is that much different. So I'm pretty anti like taking out your starting quarterback and putting another one in, but that's possible. It's a weird year. It's a weird game. It's the Iron Bowl. Who knows? But if I had to guess, I would say no, but it would be fun to see. Are you opposed to both Nix and Durkin being brought back if Auburn wins. I think there's some context that needs to be added to that question. I think the staff is going to be decided, or the core of the staff is going to be decided before Saturday. I don't think there's any, there's not going to be any gray area on, if DJ Durkin wins, he gets the job. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So I think everything's going to be in place before the game starts. And so I don't know if that's entirely it. I would be surprised, though, if Derek Nix was the play calling offensive coordinator for Auburn next year. I would be surprised by that. The Auburnator, how much does Sylvester Smith's first half absence, how much will it affect Alabama in the first half? I think it's going to have an impact. You'd rather have them than not, but I'm just not, they're deep at that position. They play a lot of guys. Durkin talked about that. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. Somebody's asking again about Keldric's injury update. Once again, Keldric's fine. Keldric's going to play. He will be ready to go, was the direct quote from DJ Durkin. So, Trey, he was not asked any word on Omar Mabson. He was not asked about Omar, to my knowledge. Silas asked, do you think if we make a bowl game, will that be Deuce's second career start? That's a great question. I don't know. I can't imagine why Ashton would opt out of the bowl game, but it could be an opportunity to get Deuce reps for sure. The bowl games do not count towards your red shirt. So it wouldn't be, if Ashton didn't play, it wouldn't be because of the reason that he didn't play last week. So it would not impact his eligibility. Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys for hopping in on a Monday afternoon. We will be live tonight after Auburn takes on Oregon in basketball. So please, please, please come by and hang out with us there as well. We're also super close to hitting 26,000 subscribers. We're 20 away. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps the show out a ton on YouTube and on audio. Helps the show out a ton there if you subscribe, however you're tuning in. But we'll see you later tonight. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.